Imagine stumbling upon a confidential memo from a top leader to his key troubleshooter, who's been sent into one of the most hostile territories in the ancient world. Well, that's pretty much what we're looking at today. This letter, written around 66 AD, is from the Apostle Paul to Titus, one of his most trusted guys, and it's full of urgent instructions for a mission on the island of Crete.
Right off the bat, Paul does not pull any punches. To show just how tough this mission is, he actually quotes one of Crete's own poets, and wow, the assessment is absolutely brutal. This one line gives you a raw, unfiltered snapshot of the culture Titus was supposed to be changing from the inside out.
Which, makes you wonder, if that's the reputation of the place, why on earth would you even try to build a community based on truth and integrity? Well, as it turns out, Paul had a very specific, very clever strategy for this high-stakes environment.
So here's the setup. Paul had left Titus on this big Greek island, Crete, with a really tough job: bring some order to a whole network of house churches that were frankly a total mess. Titus was the fixer, sent in to clean things up.
To really get what Titus was up against, you have to understand Crete. The culture was so famous for being deceitful that the Greeks literally invented a verb, kritizo, which just meant to lie. Seriously, the island was riddled with corruption, violence, and was known for its mercenary soldiers. But, and this is key, its harbors made it a super strategic hub. Paul knew if a healthy church could take root here, of all places, its influence could ripple out across the entire Mediterranean.
And at the heart of the problem was this: theological mess. The local Christians were kind of blending their new faith with their old ideas about their main god Zeus, who they claimed was born right there on Crete. But in all the myths, Zeus was known for being, well, deceitful and totally self-serving. So Paul kicks off his letter by saying his message is from a God who does not lie, basically drawing a massive line in the sand. He's saying the God of Jesus has a completely different character, and that changes absolutely everything.
So what was the game plan? Paul gives Titus a clear two-part strategy. And the very first thing he needs to do? Appoint a brand new team of leaders. They're called elders, who would live out a totally different way of life.
And this is where the strategy is just brilliant. Look at this job description. It's a direct counterpunch to everything Cretan culture stood for. In a place famous for greed, leaders can't be chasing dishonest money. In a culture of violence, they have to be self-controlled, not quick-tempered. This wasn't just a list of nice virtues. It was a blueprint for a cultural revolution, starting right at the top.
But these leaders had a really specific job. It wasn't enough to just be a good person. Their core mission was to grab hold of the true message, teach it clearly, and, this is important, correct the false teachers who were stirring up all the chaos in the first place.
And that brings us right to part 2 of Titus's mission. He had to go head-to-head with the corrupt teachers who were ruining these churches from the inside.
So who were these troublemakers? Paul calls them those of the circumcision group. Basically, these were Cretan Christians of Jewish background who were insisting that any non-Jewish person had to get circumcised and follow all the old Torah laws to really be a follower of Jesus. And the way they taught was a huge problem. Paul says they were full of meaningless talk, getting everyone sidetracked with Jewish myths and human commands. They were just distracting everybody from the main point and blowing up whole households with their arguments.
And here's the real kicker. What was driving them? Deep religious conviction? Nope. Paul is blunt. They were just in it for the money. They were teaching this stuff simply for dishonest gain.
Paul's final verdict on them is just devastating. He says their lifestyle completely contradicted what they were saying. Sure, they talked a good game about God, but their actions, their very Cretan way of life, screamed the opposite. And for Paul, that hypocrisy made them completely unfit for anything good.
But Paul's vision was so much bigger than just dealing with a few bad apples. His ultimate goal was to create a whole new kind of community by changing the everyday behavior of every single person in the church.
And the way he lays this out is fascinating. It's a strategy that starts in the home. He tells the older women to be models of integrity and self-control. Then, they are supposed to train the younger women to build these stable, loving families. The goal was to create a whole new social fabric, something so different from the chaos of Cretan culture that their neighbors wouldn't have anything bad to say about them.
And here's the why behind all of it. The ultimate goal of this new lifestyle, from the leaders all the way down, was to make the message about God look, well, attractive. The whole idea was that their transformed lives would be like a beautiful picture that would make skeptical outsiders stop and wonder what kind of teaching could produce people like that. But let's be real. How could anyone actually live this way? Especially in a culture that's pushing you in the exact opposite direction every single day. Paul makes it clear this isn't about just trying harder or sheer willpower. It's all powered by a theological engine he calls grace.
Now, for Paul, grace wasn't just some get-out-of-jail-free card for past mistakes. It was this active, powerful force that shows up in your life and actually teaches you. It empowers you to say no to all the corrupt, worldly junk and yes to a new, self-controlled, godly way of living. This right here, this is the heartbeat of the whole letter. The motivation for this radical new life isn't about trying to earn God's approval. It all flows from the mind-blowing reality that God, simply out of his own kindness, love, and mercy, has already saved them. That's the truth that creates a whole new kind of person.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. Paul's strategy in Crete seems to suggest that maybe the most powerful argument for what you believe isn't a clever speech, but a community of people whose lives are genuinely being changed for the better. It's a powerful idea from this ancient memo, and one worth thinking about. Can a community's conduct actually be its most compelling message?